The Brisbane Lions Fancast wouldn't be possible without our 2024 sponsors, Hop On Brewery Tours and Crisp Communications. Hop On Brewery Tours give you the chance to learn and experience some of the best craft breweries across Brisbane and the Gold Coast. Check them out and book yourself a tour right now at hoponbrewerytours.com.au. And Abby and the team at Crisp Communications, not only are they going to get you some Brisbane Lions Fancast stickers, but they can help you out if you're in business and you need a marketing push, you need help with your digital marketing, your very own podcast, whether it's stickers for your own business. They offer it all. Web design, podcast management, social media, training and coaching. It's all available at crispcoms.co. Make sure you check out Abby and the team because they will get you everything you need to get your business skyrocketing. All right, let's get into the show.
It's a draw, both the teams are even. They split the points and now we're bound for home. 4 quarters played, now the race is run. No one's lost, but no one's won. It's a draw, both the teams are even. And there's nothing left to say. When the siren ends the game and the scores are both the same, only football's the winner today.
It is the Brisbane Lions Fancast after a draw, our first draw in 15 odd bloody years. Would you believe it? It is a strange feeling, but I think it's the result the game deserved, as everyone's seen by now, surely. 3 points at quarter time, 2 points at half time, 1 point at three-quarter time, and a bloody draw to finish things off against the Crows. The game that both teams needed to win, and both teams couldn't afford a loss. Both 3 and 5, both struggling to recapture form from 2023, and neither got what they were after. In fact, we split the 2 points, and I'm sort of glass half full on this one. I thought, considering our injuries, considering the young team that we had been putting out there, an away game against a very hostile crowd, I thought we did well to come away with 2 points, and as Fag said, 2 points better than none. So, take it, move on. Hopefully, and I'm not going to even say what I was going to say, a winnable game against the Tigers at the Gabba on Saturday night. So, still hanging in there by a thread as we have been, hoping that at some point things will turn. Hasn't quite turned just yet, but there are definitely some positive signs. How do you see, Patrick?
It was a team that hadn't played a lot of footy together, I think. That's sort of my main takeaway from our blokes. Fair bit of disjointedness in transition and just, positional awareness and not knowing who to trust and where, it looked like a new team, and that's kind of what it was, and that's what it is, unfortunately, for the idea of, winning every game. It's probably not going to happen, and I think, like you, the glass half full element of looking at it and going, well, the goalposts have shifted for the season, so if this element will improve, and because we're missing so many in with long termers, it's like they'll get better. They'll know each other better. It's not often you have, for us particularly in the last few years, have three new faces immediately, and 2 other blokes that have barely played, and etc. So, I kind of feel like I almost willed this, because I've been cheering for draws for like 3 weeks, just because I heard that theme tune and it's an absolute banger. So just about every close game, I've just been like, how many points to a draw, and it'll get to a goal or a point, and then it only happened once. Now it's happened twice. So apologies, but I like a draw. I'm not like make and play longer.
No, I'm with you. But I'm a traditionalist in a lot of ways. I don't mind the draw, especially in the home and away season. Obviously different for finals, but after the Anzac Day draw, the whole conversation is like, well, we need extra time. We have to have extra time. That conversation hasn't exactly exploded after Adelaide Brisbane on a Sunday evening. So I don't mind a draw. No. It shakes things up. We've now got 4 teams on sort of uneven points, if you will. So percentage comes into it. Yeah, I'm happy with it. Leave it there. Like I said, I think it's the result the game deserved, because it was, like, how many lead changes were there? So many ebbs and flows. Each team sort of had momentum at various times, and I thought the Crows actually had a majority of the momentum in the last quarter, and we managed to arrest it with sort of, 5 minutes to go to stem it a little bit. we had our chance in the last minute. We got the ball forward, but just couldn't get. Like, we just needed to bang through something if we wanted to scrape away a win. But there's been a lot of chat about the umpiring. I thought we generally got the better of it. There were some 50-50s that we got that they didn't. So I can understand why Adelaide fans are pretty ropeable, but I don't think it was the deciding factor in the end. 3 changes, obviously. McCarthy, Gardner, and Noah Answorth all out. In comes Shadow Brain for his first AFL game, albeit the sub. Archie and Pryor came in. So we sort of forecast most of those changes. I don't think we really had Shadow Brain high on the list. I just thought it was... whilst I'm very happy to see him get an AFL game, I didn't think he was that close. I thought, there was every chance the teams were going to come out and Fags was going to pull the real conservative fort Jared Lyons and probably Pryor as well. So I liked the look of the team on paper. What I didn't like, and this is a real pisser for Shadow Brain, or was it Logan Morris? Whoever got their jumper presented by Sam Mays. Did you see that?
Yeah, I did.
Jeez,
and
that's grim.
To me, that was almost like an omen. Because you sort of like this, I mean, funnily enough, Archie's changing my mind. But I talk back to that scuffle that they had in one of the early Q clashes between Sam Mays and Callum Archie, and I just find it absolutely hilarious. 2 incredibly soft players at the time. Archie's obviously turned it around. And how? But Sam Mays used to vomit before every game. Cool. That's about the only thing I remember about him. Bit useless.
It was a strange one. Like, Bruce Reville got his jumper presented to him by Tom Rockcliffe last week, which I thought, that's a kind of a fun one. Like, one of our better players in a pretty grim time for the Brisbane Lions and a former captain.
Well, it's also the same number.
Yeah. So that makes
at least
sense.
That. Sam Mays never wore fucking number 13, did he?
No, he didn't.
Like, find Brett Voss. I was expecting Martin Pike to, or at least get Nathan Eagleton or get Matthew Nix to do it and say it's Martin Pike. Just get any bald guy to be like, yep, here's, any of them.
Yeah, it was a strange one. And it just screamed of, we haven't thought about this. Who have we got in Adelaide? Sam Mays, that'll do it. I'm sure Sam Mays was as surprised as anyone to get the call for that one. But good on him for stepping up and doing it. And I'm sure Logan Morris appreciated it all the same. After his...
I would be amazed if Logan Morris knew who Sam Mays was.
Yeah, probably.
Because had he not played for my team, I would not commit him to memory. It'd be the sort of... He's basically albeit less violent, Jimmy Webster of our team in the sense that I had no idea who that guy was before he brained Jai Simpkins. So that sort of a thing I've got to say. But I did call that they do some sort of jumper presentation last week for Logan Morris, and I'm glad they did. But more fool us and Fagan and general better judgment in the idea that we don't have subs as debutantes.
Yeah.
We were all just like, oh, it's not going to happen. Brain will play. Who's going to be the sub? And it's a bit unfair because you sort of okay, cool. This is what's happened every time, and it's been said that we don't do this, and then they just change it, and it makes us look like dickheads. So brilliant.
I think I think the idea of having 3 players with 2 games or less, well, 1.5 games or less on the field at the same time was just too much, and I didn't think he wanted to take that risk, which I can understand, especially after Sharpie had a good game last week. Pryor has played AFL before, so we know what sort of output we can get from him. There was no other obvious sub, really, I suppose, unless you were going to play it safe with Archie in the hamstring potentially, but he ended up he was one of our best on in the end. So I think it made the most sense, unless you wanted to chuck Bruce as the sub potentially. Yeah,
Bruce Reville definitely has not sort of kind of raised from his... He was great in the first quarter last week, but I think Adelaide are a better team than Gold Coast. They played significantly better than the Gold Coast. We'll have to come back to that umpiring stuff that you said, because I didn't notice too much different, except for a couple of really soft holding the balls that went the other way. But that is all right. We've heard in the week By the way, I just want to say, when I had my tirade about umpires last week, I did not realize it was like Umpire Appreciation Week this week.
Well, good thing you got it out of the way last week then.
Yeah, I don't retract it at all. But yeah, when that blonde-haired dude turned up on 360, I was not sticking around for that. So,
Oh, look, I'm you know, they've got a tough job. I couldn't do it. Move on. I mean, Archie played the link role, and his effect was fairly immediate in the first quarter. And I think, we've got 1 week sample size, so it's hard to go off. But we've seen him play that sort of half forward role before, and he played it very well yesterday. So we've found an option there to plug a gap that's been left by Link McCarthy. He's hit the scoreboard, so that's, tick there. He's pressure, he's tough, he can mark overhead, so that's a nice little filler with Bailey to come back into the team as well in the next month or so.
yeah, I think in terms of that was obviously like a pleasant surprise. We sort of forecasted that he probably could have gone forward or back, but it is weird that, like, given our injury issues or form issues and stuff, particularly at half back and half forward, like, we've got quite a lot of players to fill those gaps. It's just like they're not exactly the best players in terms of particularly down half back. I thought we largely did pretty well dealing with their smalls in the back half, but Rankin, obviously he's the hardest matchup, and you look at it and go, well, in any other world, probably like Noah gets him or Starcevic would get him. Starcevic has done a really good job in the past. He obviously struggled last year a little bit. So I don't know whether that's a Stewie Jew not knowing how to get the most of him at the Gold Coast. But yeah, I thought McKenna really struggled. He was probably there were a few times where he just let him go, didn't read the game. I think McKenna's really out of form at the moment. There's a few players that are really out of form, but sometimes being out of form doesn't really matter super much. But if it's costing you goals like it is with that, Charlie Cameron's another one. Lockie Neal, Danaher was not super great last night. But it's sort of where we're at, unfortunately, I feel.
Yeah, I mean, we said it a couple of weeks ago. I think there's very few players on our list at the moment that have maintained or improved on their form from last year, and I think majority have gone down, some by quite a way, some by not so much. Like the whipping boy at the moment is Hipwood, and he's copying again. And yeah, he hasn't had his best year. So would I drop him? Absolutely not. He's still presenting. He's still, like, his work ethic is still there, and he was, as you said off air, a 5-minute period away from breaking that game right open yesterday. And yeah, he sprayed a couple of shots on goal.
If the fans had a bit of confidence in him, maybe he's hitting all those 3 set shots. So that's kind of the weird one there, is it's sort of a bit of a chicken and the egg. It's like people are waiting for him to do something, and they're just waiting for him to screw up. And it's like, set shots are not our strong suit this year. Like,
no.
I put a call out and said, has Charlie Cameron scored a set shot this season? We can't think of one. We think surely there must be one.
Yeah.
But he looks terrified when he's lining up for goal. And like normal drop punts, he's kicking you're sort of supposed to kick the belly of the ball on a drop punt. So maybe he listened to the snap zones and lost his mind, because that's how it looked when he was, running up for goals. So
yeah, the set shots for him. He's still, like, that first goal he kicked, he worked some weird angles there to get that one through. So he's still got bits and pieces there. But yeah, it's just not all coming together for Chuck at the moment, and I guess we just hold hope that it will all click at some point. I thought Danaher was all right last night. Obviously, him and Charlie got pointed out on first crack by Kingy of they both burnt each other at some stages throughout the game. There's a element of selfishness creeping into both of their games at times, and did that cost us the game? Maybe not. I think there's a few moments here and there that you could point to if you really want to. It's a draw. I'm sure there's 1,000 different moments that people are going to look back on and say, well, that was the moment. Same for Adelaide as well. Dawson had a flying shot with however long on the clock. Pulled it too much, he said. So it's just one of those
missed
things.
a couple and pulled one, and the one on 3/4 time. Like, I think, yeah, you're right. There's going to be everything that you look at in terms of an individual, and I think people can get really bogged down on that sort of a thing. And like, yeah, for something like a grand final, where I know that we did, and boy, howdy, did that affect our confidence. Looking at individuals and going, where did you miss your moment? To do that for a draw is kind of a little bit redundant. I think you need to look more like at system and go, okay, we the Lions. I don't know this for sure, but I know at one point in time we had conceded 7 goals from the back half, and it's like, I know you said that Adelaide tend to be a back half moving team, but for me, that's like purely indicative that it was a new, like, mashed together, mutated team.
Yeah.
That doesn't have whether it's like the zonal awareness or like, the knowledge of how it works. And you'd think, yeah, like surely they would know how it works because they all play for the same football club and whatever. But, watching the VFL last year in the prelim at Werribee, like Ben Hudson's a completely different style coach. Like it might be the same system, but it's implemented in a totally different way. So I definitely feel like points in the back half, and then also like there were quite a lot of goals conceded from individual errors. And it's like those are the two things that are indicative of people either not, someone might be standing 1 meter too close in board for like some of the kicks. Or, you might just be biting off the wrong kick at the wrong time. There was ones with Payne, one with Zorko, a bit of good pressure from Ben Keys to turn the ball over from Harris. Like, it's a teething issue that we're going to have to deal with in real time. But hey, I think Adelaide played a pretty good game and they were in pretty good form after last year. And hey, we got beaten by them down there last year with a better team we had. So, like,
well, that's it. Like they've beaten
technical marginal improvements.
They're not a bad team. Like, yeah, they haven't had the start they wanted to, similar to us. But in the last few weeks, they towed up Port Adelaide last week, and those moments you're talking about, we get burnt on turnover quite a bit. We also got done in clearances and contested ball a little bit yesterday as well, which was a little bit more alarming than getting burnt on turnover, because that is Adelaide, I think, a top 3 from scores from the back half, similar to how Collingwood played last year. But the way they torched Port Adelaide with those getting at the back and goals from the back half and turnover and stuff like that. Like, they made Port Adelaide look really stupid. And yeah, they made us look stupid a few times last night, but not to the same extent that they burnt Port Adelaide. They also beat Carlton down at Marvel as well. So they're no mugs. And they haven't, apart from Thilthorpe, their injury list is pretty healthy. So I think this is a game we can walk away with going, you know what? Yep, we didn't get the win, but next best thing marginally. Like you said, there was a few moments. There was a moment, I can't remember when it was, but Logan Morris leading up for a mark. He had plenty of space. He knew he had space, and he didn't stick his hands out in front. He just sort of loped in for a chest mark. And, in the VFL, that's probably fine, but you're in the AFL now. That space got closed so quickly. It got spoiled. I think they turned around and got a scoring shot out of it at the very least. So just little bits like that, and that just shows inexperience at the AFL level. I'm not going to,
single one out.
I'm not sitting here going, oh my God, he cost us the game, or like,
no.
I
was just going to say, it's like, it's amazing that you can do a chest mark in the VFL, because I tried to take a chest mark up the wing in one of the Reclink games, and bloody Colshy spoiled me from behind after running about 40 meters. So I'm like, couldn't even lead up and take a chest mark on the wing in Reclink Community Cup. What are they doing in the VFL, boyo? It's
just like those little moments that we're speaking about, and I'm sure he's ruining that just as everyone's ruining little bits here and there. So, I'm happy with this result. So, as strange as it feels to get the draw, I'm fairly happy with it. And yeah, we've got some very winnable games over the next couple of weeks. We've got some players coming back. Answorth will come back. Ashcroft, 4-6 weeks away perhaps. Bailey not too far away. Dev Rob potentially as well. So, we're going to get some players back, and as we've spoken about off air as well, the mid-season draft, who we've got 3 or 4 spots that Danny Daly has said, yeah, we're gonna pick some players up, and Daniel Lloyd is a name that's been floated.
Yes. I saw some funny discourse post-game where quite a lot of Essendon fans were sort of like, oh no, our percentage, it's now going to matter, which I thought was hilarious, because who do we play round 23?
Oh, yeah.
At the Gabba.
Great.
Essendon. For you know, I've said to a couple of people, I said to my brother, I said to my mum yesterday, I'm like, the goalposts have shifted for this season. Like I would consider us making the 8 and utilizing these young players to play in a final as like an A+ mark.
Yeah.
I think that it's quite a way away, and it's also the sort of thing where you look at the next couple of games and you go, they're probably pretty winnable, and then you go, oh, just about every other game after that, you're like, ugh, because you're either playing someone really good at home or someone that's in the lower part of the ladder, but it's always away. It's like, oh, cool, we're playing the Bulldogs away, or we're playing West Coast away, or we're playing St Kilda away. It's like this fixture list is absolutely brutal.
Yep.
So brutal. And like I said, it was more brutal than it was even being touted to being in preseason, but far out. It's brutal, man. It's every game you're like, shit.
That's good. I think, like, as you said, the goalposts have shifted. I think it's going to be good character building, good experience for next year. And then we've essentially got a different team next year. Like, you'd have to think maybe McCarthy and Darcy Gardner will miss the first month maybe of next year. But other than that, Duday comes back, Coleman comes back. We'll have 2 Ashcrofts. We'll obviously lose some players at the end of the year. And 2 of those maybes were probably our best ons last night as well. So stuff to think about. Let's not forecast too far ahead. But
Who the hell are you talking about?
McCluggage and Berry.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah. So although McCluggage did do a press conference throughout the week, and like it all sounds good. It all sounds like it's just a formality, and people have still got faith that he's sticking around. But we'll see.
Yeah, reading between the lines with the McCluggage stuff just seemed more like he had previously just sort of been signing, let's say you'd in an ideal world want a deal to be 50-50,
Yep.
50% for the club, 50% for the player, that maybe perception-wise had been maybe like 52% in favor of the club, 48%, and I think it's just an element of him trying to like equalize that or even put it 52% in his favor.
Yeah.
And I think he's looking for a longer term deal. So, I still think these things happen and they take time, and then they happen. And if it doesn't happen, it'll suck, because I think Jared Berry's in career best form at the moment. I think McCluggage was better last night. I think he'd been down the last couple of games, but getting a lot of the ball. But yeah, aside from that, like, I can't remember what train of thought I was on before, but here
let's,
we are now.
Quickly, just touching on Jared Berry, I thought and we will get to our votes, but I thought he was definitely one of our best on, if not best on, last night. And I think it's no coincidence that he played a lot more time in the centre bounce last night as well, where we all know he plays his best footy.
Yeah, I think he's been playing good footy, and his disposals improved quite a bit. And I think just in regards to our team's sort of fitness levels and stuff like that, like I don't have as many criticisms of it as a general sense, and maybe it's because there's a lot of twos players that have come in and they've had to work particularly hard because they're trying to break their way into the team. I think Neil's either playing injured or his fitness level, he's got no explosiveness out of the contest.
He's banged up. He's well banged up. I think that groin that he got the operation on last year, I think that's holding him back quite a bit. And I think it'll be the sort of thing that at the end of the year it'll all come out that he's been playing with, I don't know, something.
Osteitis pubis or some bullshit, but Elliot yelling it up. But no, like, it's sort of, is that useful? I don't know. Like,
yeah, I still think an 80% Lockie Neal is a best 22. He's a dual Brownlow medalist, so he's a walk in any 22.
But it's an old adage, it's like you'd rather your Rolls Royce in second gear than not at all. But at this point in time, he's sort of like, he's barely impacting. He was anonymous. He got 25 touches, and I can't think of an impactful thing that he really did in the game. But that's just me. Maybe it's a one-eyedness. Not that I don't want him to be bad. I'm not looking to him to be good. I'm not scrutinizing him heavily. The things that he's ordinarily good at, which is ground ball and, breaking from stoppage, it's just not happening. And he's never really been the greatest disposal by foot. He's a good disposal by hand to get it to the outside. So yeah, it's a hard one to think.
I think he's set a really high bar for himself, and I think we're all like I said, dual Brownlow medalist, so the bar is high. I think he's still, like last week against Gold Coast, fantastic game. Yeah, he dropped on form this game, but he was going in a head-to-head with Saligo for a good portion of it. Anytime he's got close attention, yeah, it stymies his game a little bit. That handball he did to, was it Archie? That set up his third goal or something like that. That was great.
That's probably yeah.
Yeah. So but yeah, I agree. He's not breaking games open the way we're used to him seeing, but I also think it's all impossible to be that consistent and that consistently good for long periods of time. And if he's playing injured, then so be it. Like I said, I'd still take an 80% Lachie Neale.
The curse of the post-Brownlow year for Lachie Neale.
Yeah. No, well, he'll have a year off then, I suppose.
Because, it happened in 2021 where he was a bit banged up and a bit, lower on form. So next year, hopefully a big one. I thought, Fletcher started pretty well. Funnily enough, Logan Morris went and took my Darcy Gardner 3 disposals, 2 goals to new heights with 3 disposals, 2 goals and a behind.
Yep.
So that's funny and good. 2 kind of mirror images on the old snap running either side of the goal was cool. Shadow Brain was there. He obviously got pinged pretty harshly holding the ball as his first thing, and then took a good mark and
set up that Berry goal.
Around.
And the commentators, I think it was Jack Rewalt and Jordan Lewis that both pointed it out that, you get absolutely your first moments on an AFL field, you get done holding the ball immediately. That would be enough to suck the confidence
at Adelaide Oval.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So to turn it around and take a genuine contested mark on a decent opponent and then deliver a lace out kick to Jared Berry who's put through a goal, that's amazing resilience to work your way through that mentally and obviously to execute as well. So bloody well done to him.
Yeah, it was good. Jack Payne had a very good game.
Yeah,
there was only one moment where he got caught under the ball, and that was one of the ones I'm sitting there going, can they not do some sort of like Greco-Roman wrestle, like where you spin and end up behind the dude?
Easily.
But that might just not be a thing that's possible. So
easily his best game all year for the club, which is massive, because it wasn't too long ago we got that voicemail from, I think it's Steve potentially, that said he's been terrible. We sort of gave him the benefit of the doubt, he's been down on form compared to last year, but I don't think he's been that bad. But yesterday, easily his best game for the club this year, and we know he's a confidence player, so hopefully he can take that form from last night into next week, where he's coming up against a Richmond forward line that isn't exactly awe-inspiring at the moment. They got that fella from New Zealand that's making waves, Samson Ryan, the relatively inexperienced forward line for the Tigers. So hopefully he can continue that form and to build on it. Both our keys were amazing last night. Harris Andrews and Jack Payne, easily 2 of our best on as well.
Yeah, there was a couple of moments where they were sort of a bit getting in each other's way, both going up for the spoil. That's where we had weird albino Himmelberg, out the back, scoring a goal, that sort of thing where you'd rather them not all go together, but here we are. I was sitting there thinking, because, obviously Charlie Cameron came to the Lions and was fantastic. Obviously has been fantastic for the club the whole time, except for maybe the last handful of games. Them obviously picking up Darcy Fogarty in that trade. What would the weird alternative reality be had Cameron not come and we had Darcy Fogarty? Do you reckon? Probably not as successful.
It's hard to tell. You don't know.
Because I really like Darcy Fogarty.
Yeah, me
he's
too.
A fantastic player. He absolutely terrifies me.
Yes.
He's almost got a weird element of we were sort of talking a few weeks ago about Charlie Dixon.
Yep.
There's a bit of that to it where I'm like, this guy would kill me.
Yeah.
Kill me. He's got that sort of utterly remorseless terrifying face.
And he's a
He's
great set shot normally as well. The only one he butchered was when the 3/4 time siren went maybe 2 seconds before he kicked it, which was like perfect timing. It's enough to get in your brain and just throw you off, but not think about it too much. So he ended up spraying the shot, which would have given them, in the context of the game, a fairly decent lead going into the last quarter. Yeah, he did a number on Frog. This is probably Froggy's worst performance for the year, and which is fine. Like, he's been amazingly consistent all year. He got towed up for the first time against a bloke who is significantly bigger and stronger and fitter than him. So, sure.
Well, the thing is, if once Tex retires, Payne goes to Frog.
Yeah.
So it's that's the thing. I have a question about that though. So if you're running in to take a shot on goal at whatever quarter, half time, and the siren goes, can you stop and go back and do it again?
I think so. It depends how far you are into your run-up, because you see some players that take like a couple of steps and then the siren goes and then they stop and sort of take a deep breath. But I think he was well too far into his run-up to stop, because I think that would have just thrown him mentally even more.
Yeah.
So...
And another question I had is, if you kicked a ball, high and 15 meters enough, and you run and mark your own kick, does that count?
I don't know. Probably not.
Yeah, I just thought about that during the game. I don't know why. I think someone must have done something a bit like that or something. Skied the ball.
There was one where Rankin chucked it up and it got touched off the boot and went fairly high up, and Rankin, it ends up near Rankin again. It didn't go 15, horizontally. But
maybe I'm just thinking of like a insane alternate reality where Aaron Shattuck took that Jonathan Brown mark against Hawthorn of his own thing. But yeah, I mean, that game is done. It's a draw. Both the teams are even.
Yes. Votes?
And you first. I need to have a bit of a soul search.
All right. Well, these votes, obviously, thanks to Hop on Brewery Tours.com.au. Book yourself a half or a full day tour right now through the team at Hop on Brewery Tours. Matt and Joss will put you through one of the great experiences, not just in Brisbane, but on the Gold Coast as well. Check them out online. My votes, 3 Jared Berry, and that's more, like, obviously he was one of our best on last night, but I think a body of work over the last 5 weeks or so gives him the 3. And our 2 keys, Harris the 2, Jack Payne. And you know what? Sorry, Jack Payne the 2, Harris Andrews the 1. I think they both had great games as well. And there's a cut like Archie, really unlucky to miss out. Same with Klug. I thought Dunkley had a pretty good game as well. Yeah. But Bears and the keys for me.
Yeah, I almost feel like, because you've given Berry the 3 from a body of work, whereas I've just been chipping him away with 1 vote every week. So he's going to be like pretty high up, I reckon. But yeah, Jared Berry the 3. I'm going Archie the 2 and Jack Payne the Uno.
Sure.
Just because I think there were elements where Jack Payne got honeypotted to the ball in the third quarter and it cost us a little bit. So
yeah, fair enough. I just thought, for a confidence builder and for his best game for the year, I think he gets my 2. In the real world, I probably would slip Jordan Dawson in there and maybe Matt Crouch as well. Maybe Fogarty. They were best on for Adelaide for me anyway. So, but we're not in the real world. We're in Brisbane Lions Fancast land. So that's where we're at.
Matt Crouch, eh?
Yeah.
He kind of strikes me as their Jared Lyons.
A little bit. But I would have
bit divisive in the fan base, a bit slow, a bit kind of on the different pace to everybody else. It is what it is. He's a bit of an accumulator, isn't he?
A little bit.
Or am I thinking of Rory Laird? No, they're both basically the same. I don't know. Whatever. Let's move on.
Well, I mean, that was the Adelaide criticism a few weeks ago. It's like their midfield was vanilla and one paced with Crouch and Laird in there, and so they switched things up. Dawson floats in and out. Saligo's getting much more midfield time. Rankin in and out as well. So, and I thought, as far as the midfield goes, I thought they were quite good. I think they got the win in terms of midfield battles last night. I thought the ruck battle was genuinely enticing all night. Oscar and Riley O'Brien. I think
it seemed like Oscar had a bit more strength, but Riley O'Brien had a bit more craft.
Well, not if you ask the Adelaide fans.
What do they think?
they're like, I'm sick of this. Like, they want him dropped. They're sick of him tapping it to absolutely no one. Blah blah blah. I thought,
I thought you were going to say that they were annoyed that they weren't getting free kicks or something, but just about every contest, he's like scruffing O, and I'm just like, fucking how often?
yeah, but
Um,
I just thought it was a genuine good battle between those two. I thought they were fairly evenly matched. It was quite fun to watch.
Also, I'm going to shout out Josh Rochelle as well. Just he was absolutely coward a few weeks ago when he dropped that mark under pressure, and he went back with the flight of the ball, and fair play, but got absolutely smashed at one point in time in the game. So fair play to him.
Yeah, shout out to Rochelle. Glad he didn't tear us up like he did last year as well. So
Yeah. I think it's an element of like similar to us, Adelaide. They've just got a lot of players struggling for a bit of form. Aside from Rankin, Rankin has some really good, really amazing timing, just game sense and timing. Maybe he needs to talk to the umpires in a general sense about timing because we saw another one get smashed as well in that game. Absolutely smashed in a contest.
Yeah.
Just backing into a group of players. So, what will they do?
don't know, mate.
Don't know.
All right.
Don't.
We obviously the game being last night didn't really have time to solicit for questions, but we did get an unsolicited question. Thanks to Crisp Communications, crispcoms.co. Get yourself a free Brisbane Lions Fancast sticker through their website or through ours, brisbanelionsfancast.com.au. From Zig, he said, depending on the outcome of Lions versus Crows, this was obviously sent before the game, where do you think the Lions can feasibly place by the end of the year? Now, I don't know what sort of effect this draw has on that, but
the funny thing is that the people that have drawn are all ones that, I think probably Collingwood might end up in the top 4. I feel like Essendon will surely drop a little bit. So between Essendon and Adelaide and us, I think we're all vying for a 5 to 8 spot.
Yeah, potentially. I think so. Essendon's proving a lot of people wrong at the moment, but we've seen this episode before. So a lot of people are sort of holding fire. I don't see the top 8 changing a huge amount. I think the top 5 are essentially locked in, and I think Carlton will definitely play finals. So the only 2 teams not mentioned there are Port Adelaide and Collingwood, who are both having up and down seasons, but I think they're good enough to play finals as well. I think we'll, at best, scrape into the bottom half of the 8, maybe a 7th or an 8th position, but probably more likely finish somewhere between 9th and 12th.
Yeah, it's hard though because you're sort of sitting here going like 9th to 12th. That's basically, as bad as we've been. I feel like we can only really improve, but maybe not. As I said, we've got a difficult draft. I'd be stoked if we scrape into the 8 and get a final into these guys, some of the new fellas. Because, you said earlier on next year having sort of like, Lincoln and Darcy might be a bit late coming into the season, but, Logan Morris having played 10, 15 games at that point in time, that's enticing, particularly given his relative output so far.
Yeah.
Efficient. So that's the sort of thing. And I feel like, in a season like this, when you have the opportunity to play other, fringe players, you're building their value to potential other clubs if they want to go elsewhere. So, there would be likelihood that maybe it's just turning a 3rd round draft pick into a 2nd in a trade or something like that. But that's all useful, in my opinion.
Yep.
Like all very useful. So, it's hard when you look at the top 8 at the moment and you go like, they look pretty locked, but at the same time, basically with the exception of Sydney, they've all played kind of terribly at different times. Like GWS they had an absolute shocker against Sydney. Carlton, I honestly think are lucky to be where they are, all things considered. Because they had a really good game against GWS, but I don't think they should have won against Fremantle. They got absolutely robbed. So, and I think, play the game against us 9 times, and 9 times out of 10 we don't lose by a point. So they may well could be 2 losses fewer. And imagine that. Imagine they're sitting in 11th where the Bulldogs are. So they've had an astounding amount of luck to be where they are. They're all good teams, but I think the teams outside of that are also good teams. And in the current climate of there'll be a massive logjam to get into that 8.
Yeah, I think so. It's a super even competition at the moment. I think, I'm starting to really consider, our year as a whole, and we've spoken about it. The goalposts have shifted on the expectations. Like, we came in premiership favourites. Forget about that. I think, seeing what Geelong did last year, how obviously they blitzed the 2022 grand final, dropped right back, and I can't remember where they finished, maybe sort of around that 9th to 12th position somewhere. They took that opportunity. They rested players for the last 2 home and away games, got them in for off-season surgery early so they can get a big full pre-season under the belt, and they've come back and look where they are. So I'm really hoping we can replicate something like that. If we play it smart enough, and if the chips don't really fall where we all expected or hoped them to at the start of the year, and we do finish outside the 8, we can sit back, watch the finals, and see what other teams are doing, and have a longer preseason, have a full preseason, get those surgeries into the guys that need them, and yeah, that's sort of the, I guess, what we're aiming for now, which is a bit strange.
Yeah, I think there was a lot to be said for post grand final Geelong, where I think it was a lot of their older players or ones that had surgery that really struggled going into the season, and the adage of the premiership hangover and stuff like that. I think there were probably fewer guys, but it's hard to get back up, I think, and probably that motivation and the willingness to go, well, am I in as good a condition as I could be in? And I said earlier on, like, it seems like some of the young fellas that are, fringe players, they seem in better nick physically.
Yep.
Like guys like Sharpie and stuff like that. Like Jared Berry as well. And I know that the funny thing is, I said Jared Berry, he had surgery in the off season too, but he's always been a hard worker and a bit of a barometer for the club in terms of his running and that sort of thing. But yeah, if we can scrape in, all good. If we can't, it's the reality of where football is sometimes. Sometimes you just have an absolute stinker of a year, and that's kind of where we're at. I don't think anyone wanted that. I don't think anyone planned for that, but I don't think it's anyone's particular fault either.
No. No matter how many people, players or coaches or otherwise you want to point the finger at, I think it's just a combination of a bunch of stuff that's happened that has put us where we are at the moment. But still got some winnable games to come up, so we'll just see what happens over the next sort of 4 weeks, because I think that's really going to give us a true indication of where things are going to lie.
And hey, look, if Draw FC was on the ladder, they would be sitting in 16th ahead of West Coast with a percentage of 0. Or 100 or whatever, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know how that works. Probably 100, I think.
Yeah.
No VFL to look at this week, which is a bit of a shame. So
it's probably lucky given how many VFL blokes are.
Yeah, actually,
kicking off over an our mob. So
you're probably right there. So I think it's that bye couldn't have come at a better time for the VFL team because their list has been pillaged. But you'd have to think next week, if there are any changes, it would probably just be Noah Answorth to come in for Pryor for me.
Yep, I think so. I think we were a bit lacking in a lockdown defender.
Yep.
I think, Pryor didn't obviously set the world alight. I don't think he was ever going to. Made a couple mistakes. Similarly, it's a bit hard, you're coming in playing one game in a makeshift defence. He tackles hard and he's a physical individual, loves a scrap.
Certainly does. I would imagine that's going to be the only change unless... No, that'll be the only change.
I think so.
Yeah. So we've got the Tigers coming up on Saturday night back at the Gabba, which will be good. Hopefully be heading along to that one. Like I said before, the Tigers are a very different team to the one we've seen over the last 10 years. Basically, not a team you recognise anymore, albeit from a couple of players here and there. But, they did the bit. They got the 3 flags, and now they're sitting down as a bottom 2 team, which I suppose, upon reflection, you would take every day of the week. if someone offered you a deal in, say, 2015 of, hey, in 10 years you're going to be bottom 2, but between now and then you'll win 3 out of 4 flags, I certainly would take that.
Feel a little bit bad for Adam Uze, though. His coaching stock's obviously not going anywhere near upward. And I think he's probably would be quite a fine coach. But unfortunately, he's stuck with Damien Hardwick's absolute mess that he left behind. A mess of broken promises and manipulation by the current Gold Coast head coach. No, I agree. Richmond are in all sorts of strife, and hopefully we can, do them over. The Western Bulldogs, I don't think are a particularly good team, and they absolutely destroyed them, which is great because it keeps Beveridge in a job, relieves their bit of pressure. It's sort of what they do. They lose 2 and then they win 1 comprehensively. So yes, all good and fun. We have our second game on a Saturday this season.
Yep. Now,
this is something that I thought about during the week. Is we heard was it after the GWS game? Chris Fagan saying in his press conference, "We'll look at the tape on Monday."
Mm.
Was that just a slip of the tongue, or are they legitimately waiting until Monday from a Thursday game to watch the tape?
No, I think they probably are. I think they probably are waiting till Monday.
Because we've had virtually all of our games this season have been Thursdays and Fridays.
Mm.
And I'm wondering, with my verbal tirades about the work ethic of the team and the club and the structure and the training and whatnot, is playing Thursday and Sunday games really affecting what happens in clubland, as they say, on a Monday to Friday? Because you sit there and go, all right, we played on Thursday. We're not looking at the tape until Monday. Then we have Tuesday, it's Wednesday, captain's run, playing on Thursday.
Mm.
Or conversely, is it the sort of thing where we're playing on Sunday and we're going, well, we've played yesterday, so don't come in on Monday. Now it's Tuesday. The idea of the structures of a club being set up for the Saturday game seems to be like an old ideal that maybe needs to change. And I don't know if we're doing that or not, but it just was a thought that is the idea of playing a lot of Thursdays and Sundays kind of stilting the sort of structure and the consistency of the team and their training structures. Maybe.
Yeah.
Just a thought.
Very possibly. And I'm sure they have got it all figured out in one way or another, like the day's break.
You would hope so.
Yes.
Surely you would hope so.
Yes. That seems like something that someone could figure out, if you dedicate an afternoon to creating schedules and stuff. But I'm sure they've got it figured out. They've got 16 contact hours a week, which, as you think, and probably most people think, probably isn't enough in an elite sporting environment. But it also, it's the AFLPA agreement. So that's what they've got. Review, main training, captain's run, recovery, everything else is left to your own devices, I guess, in the meantime. So I would imagine for a Sunday game, whether they flew back last night or whether they're flying back this morning, I would say that they've probably got today off regardless. And then it's usually main training on Tuesday, and they might do review as well at the same time. I don't know.
Yeah, I just thought it would make sense. I guess if you told me that there was a bit of disjointedness with preparation for games.
Yeah.
Given the plethora of Sunday and Thursdays. So it's all great and stuff, playing prime time. But when you're losing prime time, not so great.
The Saturday night games over the weekend were not exactly riveting games to watch, and the next few aren't exactly that great either. So, Bulldogs in Richmond and then Gold Coast, North Melbourne on last Saturday night, which is a bit gross. This Saturday coming, this Saturday coming is St Kilda, Freo, and us in Richmond. So for fans not of those two teams, you're not exactly rushing home on a Saturday night to watch those.
St Kilda, Fremantle.
Yeah.
Oh, what's that going to be, like 3-2?
Yep.
Yeah.
So,
Ross Lyon against the ghost of Ross Lyon. I said a bit of a word on St Kilda. Like, for as bad as we've been, there were a lot of people who had St Kilda in the top 4 this year. Look where they are.
Yeah, absolutely. That has been, it's been very, very strange.
But aside from that, no real conspiracies or insane shit that I've got to say this week about designated zones for snap kicks and crypto arrangements and umpire moronicness. I'm pretty much straight down the line this week.
Well, that's good. Have you got a memorable game between the Lions and the Tigers to reflect on as we head into this game against them on Saturday? What I will say is that there is a few to choose from because, in the late 2000s, early 2020s, we had some very decent games, some fairly memorable finals.
Yeah, well, there's a couple. So kind of watershed moments, I think, both of them, albeit, we're looking at it being sort of 2 decades apart-ish. So we've got, obviously, the 2001 preliminary final at the Gabba. Massive showdown against Richmond, where we made a grand final. And they played good, and Ackermanis did some stuff and, sucked in Richmond in 2001. And then the other one for me would just be the 2020.
The qualifying. McCluggage kicks us into a prelim.
Final.
Yeah.
Which I thought that one, and then even the following year, the 2021 one, where Neil missed and Matho had that thing with that dude where he was kind of frothing at the mouth, and everyone loved that. Let's not drug test him retrospectively. But that one, we having been absolutely battered by Richmond in previous seasons, it was good to really take it back to them. And those games have probably ended up being closer than they felt. A bit like the Melbourne game this year, where we really were in control for the most part, I think. So, yeah, those two, I think 2020 elimination and the home and away at the Gabba 21.
Yep. There was also the 2022 elimination final as well, where we scraped over the line with that Joe Danaher goal in the 11th hour, the dubious Tom Lynch goal/point that went over the post. But the one I want to talk about is 1996, my very, very first game of AFL that I went to. It was at the MCG. It was Fitzroy's last game in Melbourne. I've got the scarf. It's hanging up over to my left that I got from that day when I was 6 years old. Fitzroy ended up losing by 151 points, by the way. No wonder they emerged. But that was my very earliest footy memory at the G. Still got the scarf from that day, and one of the moments that I'm proud to say I sort of went there, albeit as a very small child, to go to Fitzroy's last game at the MCG. So all I remember is Darren Gasper just doing an absolute number on us.
Well, you have more memory than I do, because from that point in time, I did go to a lot of Bears games, but I have minimal recollection about any of them. So, obviously a moment in history, because they played Fremantle in round 22 the week after, and that was sort of the kind of, I'm remiss to say a fitting end to a horrible tale, but it really was there's not a lot of payoff being farewell, Fremantle. Yeah. Don't really make a lot of sense. So, yeah, I think that's kind of probably the spiritual final game of Fitzroy, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say so. No one sort of really no one really remembers the game in Fremantle, other than you sort of have to talk about it because it happened. But yeah, so we've had some pretty hot clashes over the last few years. There's been some drubbings, and I think now the coin's flipped, and now it's our turn to dish out some pain to them for a bit. But they've got the flags to show for it after their period of dominance, so they'll always have that on us, which is a bit of a shame, but good on them.
Yes, that is true. They have won premierships.